This is 200 years old piece of legal crap. Vagrancy Act 1824. I pray to any god I can find you will be not criminalized under the powers of this act. Simply said, if you are homeless or you begging to get some couple of pants to get a place in a hostel, to wash your clothes and get a bed, well, that give a power to put you up to 1 year into prison and actually charge you with a fine up to 1,000. So after 200 years, we're still doing that. And it didn't change actually from Middle Ages. So we know it's a seventh government that promises to repeal the Vagrancy Act, this 200 years old act. Previous governments said they're not going to do it straight away. They want to make sure the Police Crime Sentencing Court Act, remember Kill the Bill Act? Yeah, this act is supposed to give them extra, perhaps more subtle powers to deal with the homeless and rough sleeping people and all of these beggars and all of these vagabonds. And so, after 200 years, all of this change is difficult to charge. Well, we still struggle with the same crap. And there were actually times where homeless people were targeted very harshly, very nasty way. During COVID, when the being outside, potentially not exercising up to 30 minutes could criminalize you. And there was a lot of people, not only from Philippines to Italy. It was actually happening here in United Kingdom. Well, this is, for example, 2 months after lockdown were introduced, well, 1.5 months after, when the judges started to asking, well, what is wrong? Why police is still using Vagrancy Act to attack homeless people? For example, like in this example, around Liverpool Station, central London. Well, it shouldn't surprise you. There was an isolated example. Up to 200 people, for example, were sheltering in Heathrow Airport. Well, you may ask, how come? Shouldn't the government and council house people during lockdown to give them safe isolation? Do you remember this program? Yeah, well, officially yes, but in Tory Britain, Toryland, everything looks nice on the paper, not exactly in reality. So many people were left without housing and a place to self-isolate. So people really get upset with that and not were worried about potentially die because of COVID, but as well being targeted by police and the magistrates very nasty way. Anyway, soon after lockdown, all the fundings related to housing homeless and rough sleeping people because of COVID were slowly withdrawn. And it was only a couple weeks ago, in August 2022, when the last provisions were finally withdrawn. So it shouldn't be surprised that in Toryland, even Tory-run councils like Kent Council do really struggle with helping homeless people. Actually, Kent Council in February 22 was trying to save 38 million pounds, according to this article, from which 5 million were from services to provide help to rough sleepers and people experiencing homelessness. And well, we should ask why we're still doing that. Not only we are not giving people place to stay, we don't give them fixed abode when they can sort their homes, their lives. We actually criminalize them for this. In ancient Rome, there was a sentence who was saying, if there is no victim, there is no harm. Well, it still doesn't stop British police and the British magistrates to put women, to jail a woman just for begging, or just simply give them £250 fine for begging outside a shop and just simply to try and get a warm drink. So it's a really nasty piece of legislation. And actually, we created this environment where Every year, up to 2,000 to 1,000 people are charged, prosecuted by British legal system just because they beg, because they are sleeping outside, or they they just simply beg around, for example, train station when possibly more people can be approached and where it can potentially easy get some cash to find a bed for the night. And it's not easy to be homeless to collect 20 pounds for hostel and warm meal. And look at the proportion between convictions and the begging. It gives us some kind of a picture that magistrates actually believe in what the British police is saying, telling to the magistrates. It's really worrying. These are, for example, statistics only from London, from metropolitan area, where well, up to 1,500 people were potentially committing offenses because of the Vagrancy Act, because of begging, or 1,000 people because any other offenses like sleeping rough. And well, big percentage of these people actually has been charged by police. And don't be fooled by cautions. Although cautions are light approach to criminal offenses, they still can bite your lower back. Simply said, whenever you take caution, you say to, well, you confess, yes, I did something wrong. And yeah, I do agree with that. And this agreement can be used anytime against you as a bad character reference because any cautions could be used, for example, against you during immigration hearing when you try to get a visa, potentially when you try to naturalize yourself or someone from your family, or potentially when you try to get job. Well, there is as well another problem with that when I said about immigration. In 2000, between 2014 and 2017, European Union citizens who were found rough sleeping in UK were simply deported. There were couple freedom of information requests I am aware of, and actually the data are a little bit confusing, but potentially up to 10 to 15,000 people were forced to leave United Kingdom because they were found rough sleeping. I don't mean only forced deportation, but as well some kind of voluntary leaves from United Kingdom. Just because police you make your life very miserable with your reporting, you couldn't find a job under hostile environment laws, or you couldn't find accommodation. So it's a very nasty piece of legislation and very nasty approach to rough sleepers and people experiencing homelessness. Because, well, we should remember that from Windrush scandal. This is Winston Jones, who a couple of years ago, only 4 years ago, became a homeless person after falling ill and having brain surgery. I assume he was waiting for PIP, although I'm not exactly aware of this case. But from experience, I have working with people experiencing disabilities in United Kingdom, and as well people experiencing homelessness in United Kingdom. I know waiting for Department of Work and Pension to give you PIP decision. This is a time to wait for sentence actually. A couple of my friends were supported by us just simply to be able to pay rent, to buy food, because DWP was waiting over 1.5 years to give the decision. So that's possibly the reason this man could be as well, or similar cases could make people homeless. And actually, being here couple of decades, actually decades, almost 5 decades, he was faced with immigration removal center, which is imprisonment without sentence, and he was facing deportation, leaving United forced removal from United Kingdom. This is a very nasty piece of legal crap because even, for example, this case related only to EU citizenship was scrapped in 2018. Well, 2022 actually, Home Office introduced new immigration rule, which allowed to target anyone rough sleeping and withdraw them any permission to stay within UK. So regardless your visa, indefinite leave or definite leave or your European Union settlement scheme status, you could be your permit to stay within UK could be withdrawn if you are found to be rough sleeping person. So not only could be criminalized, but actually many decades of your hard work, potentially your pension rights, which you have to claim after being abroad, are at risk. So there is a last thing I would like to point. So we have very bad experience with state celebration, and I pointed because in next 2 weeks we will face well there will be celebration around burial of Her Majesty Elizabeth II, and although probably I will get a lot of hate because of this point, I would like to remind you we have a bad experience. For example, Windsor weddings, couple of forced homeless people into an existence. For example, Windsor Council tried to make people invisible and to make sure no foreign guests, no foreign press, and no press at all will see homeless people in Windsor. And actually, right wing press were targeting them, particularly just to make them less appealing, look them hostile, because according to right wing press, homeless people were accused to, well, be a kind of parasite on potential guests to cash in on a royal wedding. And yeah, this is my couple of thoughts related to homelessness, rough sleeping, and Vagrancy Act in United Kingdom. But there are two conclusions from this clip. One, it is, well, let's say I have two expectations regarding how we could improve life of people experiencing homelessness in United Kingdom. First one is unconditional scrapping, withdrawal or repeal of Vagrancy Act. There is no reason somebody could face criminal charges because of trying to collect few pence to find a bed in hostel. 10 to 20 pounds, that's probably the cost of the hostel bed. And that's really nasty that people trying to get such small amount of money could be criminalized up to 1,000. If they even are recidivist, they could face criminal charges or faced, for example, any other administrative hostilities like withdrawal immigration status as very not welcome because of the public safety or public, yeah, whatever. The second thing is there is a tradition in Western world when we celebrate 100 days of new government, 100 days of new prime minister. 100 days of new president. We try to, well, kind of make a summary to say if that's 100 days, if the person was able to do good things during the first 100 days to make a positive changes, that's mean, yeah, it's a potentially good head of state ruler. And even the role of the King Charles III is limited within UK. He has particular powers, royal pardon. So I would be really happy to see that during this first 100 days of his ruling, His Majesty will use his powers to give a royal pardon to all people criminalized and cautioned because of being homeless and rough sleeper in UK. All of these people who have unpaid fines because of begging and trying to get home, all of these people who landed into prison because they have been trying to live because they were homeless, experiencing homelessness. All of these people whose records are unmarked, it will be good if they could be scrubbed in the name of kind of good faith, goodwill, apologies, that something will change. There is a kind of positive change which will come from this monarchy. And that's my expectation. Although I am not native British, I am British. I think it's my country and I really like to see it improves, not only getting worse and worse because people are criminalized because of poverty, or again new crisis like this one, crisis of cost of living. So these are my couple of thoughts. Let me know, what do you think? If you think I deserve hostility because of addressing the king, well, that's your right. Let me know what you think. I'm happy to hear whatever you have to say. Take care. Catch up soon.